If you're guessing at pricing or just pricing based on what the competition charges, then you're leaving a lot of money on the table and you're already putting a ceiling on your business before you can really grow. I've seen a lot of companies get stuck between $150,000 and $300,000 just because they don't know how to price and it doesn't support that growth. Today I'll be breaking down a video to show you exactly how you can scale even if you're working out of your garage so you can support your overhead and future employees. I'm Lamar Capehart with Stevens Lawn Care, and we'll be doing over $500,000 this year. I'm trying to get to $1 million within the next 2 years. I want to help those home service businesses that's already gotten started and trying to scale and grow. One of the biggest unlocks I got from a friend of mine was you want to price where you're trying to go, not where you're at. And that's what I'm basically going to talk to you guys about. So basically, if you're starting in your garage and you're pricing based on that and not based on that office space or that yard or that storage unit you should be working out of, you're already doing yourself a disservice. I believe us business owners don't know where to start with our pricing when you're just starting out or trying to scale, just because we don't have a good mentor or we don't have the knowledge. For example, in our case, we ended up hitting a roadblock a couple years ago and just didn't know exactly what we needed to do. So we ended up just raising rates, but we didn't raise it in a way that made any sense, but it did create that gap for us to start looking deeper into it, and now I have a better understanding. Hopefully you guys have a better understanding as well after this video. So right now you're probably charging what the competition is charging, which is not a good step. For example, with us, we're probably the most expensive in our area, but that's because a lot of guys don't know how to price. They're underpriced, they go out of business a lot, they don't provide a good service. So basing it just solely based on that is not really a good indicator. I understand sometimes when you're starting, you just want to throw a number out there or just figure out what everyone is doing, but you got to quickly get past that. Or we price based on what feels fair, but you got to remember you're not your target audience and you're not your ideal avatar. You may not want to spend $1,000 on a pressure washing job or $150 a month on lawn care, but your ideal client will. So you don't want to think like, oh, this ain't that hard for me. Like for us with mowing lawns, maybe we'll spend $30, but to really have that business ran well, you want to be able to charge a premium price. You don't include the future costs. For example, what I mentioned earlier, you're not accounting for the fact that you're gonna need office space or you're gonna need trucks, equipment, payroll, taxes, things like that. You gotta put that in your future growth as well, or you won't be able to scale. So I'm gonna go over a simple pricing method. It's gonna be a lot of controversy if this video ever gets big, but I do cost plus margin. It's a very simple way of going about it. There are advanced ways you can do pricing, whether you do material costs or you have to do fulfillment. There's ways to get your production rates really dialed in. But I think if you're at 100,000, 200,000, $500,000, it's not that crucial. These guys that's having a $10 million business or you are really scaling, then it really matters how detailed you get with pricing. So we're gonna do the cost plus margin, which means take all your costs to fulfill that and then put your margin that you're targeting on top of that. So a 20%, 30% markup. Same thing like if you bought something for $1 and you needed to put 30% on that, you add 30 cents to it, now it's $1.30. That $1 is your full cost, the 30 cents would be your profit. Very simple way, but I think it's really good for those companies that's under $500,000. And then you wanna price for growth. Like I said, accounting for that payroll that you're gonna incur, taxes, the shop space, insurances, things like that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and break down what you're doing probably now or before and what we wanna aim for. So right now, if you're working, not in an office space or a storage unit, you're not gonna have any shop space costs. You're not gonna have any payroll if you don't have any employees. If you do, maybe it's lower, and then maybe you're not using software or you got a low software cost. So in this example for lawn care, you may only have gas, and this is monthly expenses. So your gas might be $750 for the day, might be $750 for the month. Your blades, tires, string, oil might be $200 for the month. You got a truck payment for $500. Maybe you got it cash, who knows? You got an insurance on your personal, maybe $200 a month. And then you're trying to make $25 an hour, 160 hours. Maybe you're working more than that, but I just assumed a 40-hour work week where you pay yourself $4,000 for the month. You got a phone bill of $150. This is a total cost of $5,800 a month. We divide that by that 160 hours and we'll see that your cost is $36.25 per hour that you're operating. That's your production rate, not necessarily what you would charge your customers. And let's say you're bringing in $35 a cut, you're doing 10 of those a day, you're gonna make $350 a day, so that's $7,000. You'll make a profit here of 20%. Or $1,200 a month, which is not bad. But as you can see here, a lot of things aren't accounted for. You don't have any payroll, no shop space, no software or insurances like general liability, things like that, would eat into this number. So this isn't a real scalable model. Whereas over here, and again, the reason I'm writing this out, let's say, because we're talking about pricing, let's say you're in this category and trying to get here. You want to try to assume those costs. Things you can do for the shop space, look around at your listings. You can look at, I think it's loop.net. You can look at realtor offices or just ask around, kind of see what you can get. We work out of a storage. I think it's a little more than 500, but these are easy maps. And again, we run multiple crews. So I was giving some numbers to kind of give an example here. With 2 full-time employees here, making about $20 an hour, we'll call it that. That'd be $6,400 for the month. Software, for example, you can add your CRM, which would be your Jobber, Service Autopilot, Copilot, whatever you want to get. Your QuickBooks, which is considered a software, or your AI system. Let's call that $600 a month, right? You got your gas. Obviously, this is going to go up because you're going to add trucks. So we're going to say $2,000, and then obviously your materials that you need for the month is going to go up. We call that $500. Your trucks, let's say you got 3 trucks and you got payments on it. You may not have payments, but I'm just assuming payments here. And you can also do that for pricing. So even if you have a truck all the way paid off, a good way to plan, let's say 6 months from now, you want to buy a truck, you can go ahead and add that cost in there for your pricing so that it's covered in case you need to buy one. Auto insurance, your commercial rate, maybe $1,000 for all the trucks. And then your owner wage, similar to what you had here, which is the $4,000. You have your phone bill that you have, and then you add general liability insurance. You add your workers' comp insurance. You add your CPA that you'll have because you got to scale up. And then the website, because you want to get a really good website made. Now all of a sudden your cost is $7,900, right? So what we want to do is see that the hourly rate goes to basically $112 per hour. Now you do have to divide that in half because that's for the total cost here. You got 2 trucks on the road. So if you divide that by half, assuming those 2 trucks are working, you're the GM, you're doing quotes, you're doing things like that. That means you're at 55.93, or you can call it $56 per truck as far as the cost goes. So what we would want to do is figure out how to get the profit rate out of this. So you want to make 20% after all these expenses. You don't want to just go in here and be like, oh, I'm good if I make 20,000. That's not going to be enough. It's if we assume all of this, what would be the cost of the rate? I try to do a visual so everyone could see. I did not factor in any advertising budget for either one of these. You can obviously add that later, but it's just a bare bones example of what would happen if you want to go ahead and try to price for where you're trying to go. You may not be here yet, but you do need to go ahead and look at your insurance costs. You need to look at some of these softwares. What do they cost? How much do I need to pay people in my market to come work for me? You can do that worksheet, because a lot of people don't tell you this part. Like, this happened with us as well. They're just like, oh, figure it out. You know, you can either go off of this, or how we are now that we operated a few years, we can look at our last year's expenses, and then we can take that and kind of see where we're at and evaluate how profitable we are, how good our rate is. If you're just trying to figure this out and you're just starting, you want to go ahead and, like I said, project these out so you can get closer to that number, because you're like, hey, I want to be $1 million lawn company, or I want to go to that $500,000. How do I get there? What should I be charging? And this is where you would start. Let's call it a 20% margin. What you would take is that total cost and divide it by 0.8. So taking 20 away from 100 or 1, you get 0.8. So this would be the amount we need to bring in per month if you want to be at a 20% margin. So what that means, once we take this 22,375 and divide it by the 160 working hours, we're going to get a target hourly rate of $70 roughly per crew. This is not the rate that you would charge the customer. You'll want an efficiency rate. So when you do the full day, like I just said, the 160 hours, this is a different video, or if you're in the landscaping space, you can look into Mike Andy's, but you want to look at your clocked hours versus budgeted hours. So this would be the clock hour target rate, meaning in the 8-hour day, you want to get at least $70 per hour, but you're not going to work the full 8 hours. So those guys are going to be losing efficiency for bathroom breaks, loading and unloading in the morning, the evening, in between stops. There also could be idling in the truck or the drive time in between. So if you're really clustered, you're going to be really more efficient. If you have to drive a long distance, then you won't be as clustered, so that's going to eat into your efficiency. So a safe number just to give you is to assume a 20 to 25% loss of efficiency. So I'm giving this all to you all together. So that's your target rate per hour out the day. So there's another thing I found out when I was researching all this, is like, what do people mean? Am I charging the customer $70 every hour? Or is that what we're aiming for the full day? Because again, we're gonna have lost time. So You're gonna divide that $70 number by 0.75, assuming for that 25% efficiency loss. That gives you a number of 93. So now we know to get to this number, which is this profit margin, we need to charge $93 an hour per man. So each guy. So if you got 2 guys in a truck, you would double this. If you got 1 guy, if you're running 1-man trucks, you would keep this there. If you're doing HVAC, plumbing, AV work, this is your hourly rate, not counting the materials. The materials would be a separate markup. Some guys do 50%, for example, like whatever you buy, you add 50% to that. Then you just add whatever your hourly rate is to that. So the 1 man for a 30-minute lawn in this example would charge $46.50. If that's your minimum, cool, but you can make a minimum like we have, bare bones, $50. So even though this may be here and this way you can make money, I know that 30-minute lawn, I'm gonna charge $50. So I'm actually gonna make a little bit more margin, maybe 25% on that charge. But hopefully that makes sense. And I know that this could maybe be confusing, but the whole point here was to see where you were and where you're trying to go, and then add that percentage on top of it. So regardless of what the numbers are, take your numbers, see where you wanna go, add it all up, divide that by 0.8 or whatever percentage you wanna get to, get your number, and you can see how your hourly rate would be affected. So we figured out our hourly rate and how we're gonna be charging our customers going forward. Now we wanna evaluate, are we too high or are we too low? You can use your close rate for that. Your close rate is how many estimates you sent versus how many were accepted. You go ahead and quote 20 people, so you send out 20 estimates, and then 10 of those are accepted. Well, that's a 50% close rate, which is fine. That just means you get half the jobs that you seek out to get. Versus if you send out 12 estimates and you only get 2, well, that's a 16% acceptance rate or close rate. And that would mean that you're probably priced a little bit too high. That means anybody in your market or in your niche, only 16% of people are saying yes to that price point. So the way we would look at that, is this bad if it's less than 30%? You're in a good range if you're between that 40 and 60%. And then anything above 80%, you're way too cheap. So if anybody tells you like, oh man, I get all the jobs that I asked for, that means you're way too cheap. If we didn't charge for lawn care at all, we would probably have a lot more customers. If we charge $10 a cut, we'll have a lot more customers. But at $50 a cut, you end up shaving off a lot of those tire kickers, or even higher than that. You know, if you get to an acre and you gotta charge $100 a cut, well, now we're going ahead and weeding that out. So my close rate's gonna go really low. We're right around that 40% mark because we're priced so high, but it's not as low as 20%. Now the seasonality does play a part in that. So as the season goes on, sometimes our close rate do go down. As I mentioned earlier in the video, there are more advanced ways to get pricing. There's gonna be a lot of stuff you see out there, and some people tell you get really granular, like in our case, you know, the per square footage, how fast does a 36-inch mower mow versus a 52-inch mower, gate sizes, standardizing, efficiency route planning, you know, density. There's a lot of things you can put in there to be like, hey, this is how we get our exact price point. But what I wanted to break down today was just a way that you guys can get an easy way to break it down in a way that's gonna help you scale versus worrying too much about the details. But again, there are advanced ways, there are other ways to price. You wanna move yourself into a place where you can do value-based pricing, but the cost plus margin method is the easiest, is cheap. A lot of guys say don't do that, but 20% margins is 20% margin. So if you can figure out the cost or where you're trying to go to get 20%, great. If you get more efficient and dialed in and you have a really good brand and value and you can get 30% margins, that'd be fantastic as well. This can be very overwhelming, really trying to dial in and figure out your pricing. If you need any help with that, you can join our school community, which is Home Service Scalers. It's a lot of good knowledge in there. We have how-tos, we have documents, we have videos to help you walk through that. It's a community of other home service businesses trying to scale. I built this channel to help give out information and not gatekeep. I know that pricing is a foundational thing along with the systems and the phones and how to market and things like that. So I'll continue to break down and send more info out to you. If you have any questions, please email or comment below any questions you might have about the pricing.